The other day, I made a video breaking into what I believe to be the best beginner tier 10 in World of Tanks Blitz to grind. And there's a lot of reasons why I chose the E5. The vehicle features an absolutely fantastic gun with some of the best accuracy for a heavy, solid DPM, and fantastic penetration. The vehicle has great mobility and overall is flexible in almost any situation you play. Now some of you might say, why not the IS-7? And I've got a couple reasons. First of all, grinding to the IS-7 is a lot harder than grinding to the E5. And that's what we're going to be showcasing today, is the whole line, starting with the M6, making our way down to the E5. But not only is the grind much easier to get to the E5, but I also feel that it's a lot better for a beginner to drive a vehicle that will punish you if you make misplays rather than one that won't. What do I mean by that? Well, the IS-7 has really good side armor. And because of that, you can drive out sideways and you won't get punished for making bad plays. And I think that's actually bad if you're a beginner. I think that you should get punished for making bad plays and learn early on what are good pokes and what are bad pokes. Because if you poke out sideways and you bounce half the shots, and you might think, oh, I can do that in other vehicles, and you're quickly going to learn that's not the case. And I think it factors a bad level of playing. So grinding vehicles that do have great capabilities but also have some sort of punishment if you play bad, I think is good. And that's why I think the E5 is a fantastic vehicle. Everything the E5 can do well is fantastic for any skill level, but the downsides will definitely punish you if you don't know what you're doing, which is good. As I said, the side armor, if you drive out sideways, is going to be poor. The side of the turret, the rear armor, these are all things you don't want to expose to your opponents, and you should learn proper positioning, which is why I think the E5 is great. So, as I said, today we're going to be talking about the whole line. I'm going to be showcasing how they play, and we're going to be making our way up. We're going to be doing one battle in each tank, just because I don't want this video to be 18 years long. So we're going to do a battle in the M6, a battle in the T29, and so on and so forth. Starting off with the M6, this tier 6 American Heavy is actually quite nice. Its gun, while not accurate, does feature a very solid amount of pen. 173 on the standard and a whopping 255 on the gold is more than enough to cut through anything in front of you. 10 degrees of gun depression makes this very flexible, and a top speed of 35 with a power to weight of 16 allows it to actually get up to speed rather decently. While the armor on the N6 isn't anything impressive, it's not bad either. You won't be high explosive penned. Back in the day, the M6 used to be very poor on the side armor, like 50 millimeters poor, maybe even less, to a point where the majority of tier 6s could high explosive you on a flat angle. That is not the case anymore. The sides are strong enough that even a KV2 with high explosive is really going to struggle to cut through. So it's really nice in that regard. And when you pair that with the gun depression and the very good penetration, plus solid alpha at 225, this tank in general is very hard to counter. Here we are on Oasis Palms. Up against us we have tier 6s and 5s, so a good matchup. Nothing crazy, but also some very dangerous vehicles like the SU-100Y, and even the Blastroid with its solid damage per minute, whopping amount of HP, and pretty good alpha. We are going to be making our way over to base A. Normally, if you watch my videos, I recommend for people to go towards base C. However, in lower tiers, where people aren't as skilled, usually you are going to expect the majority of the teams to make their way over to base A. And that is why I'm going to be doing that myself. Now, even though our Blastroid was a little bit in our way, that is fine. With the gun depression this vehicle has, we are going to try and put it in a position where we can use that to our advantage, which is far corner on base A. Supremacy is a great way for any beginner to get experienced with which bases are the most important and where is usually positions that people are going to play. So I would highly recommend as a beginner to leave Supremacy on. As you can see, we haven't spotted anything yet, but that doesn't mean they aren't here. That just means that we haven't seen them yet. As we can see, we have ran into an enemy right in front of us. Now, the M6 gun is not the most accurate, so we'll have to be a little careful, but you'll notice that I'm angling the vehicle properly, and we are getting bounces. However, with the Blastroid on our side, that is something that we will want to be a little bit careful about. So we're going to back up to this position here. This is hiding our weak hull and only showcasing the stronger turret that this vehicle features, which is obviously quite good. We shoot at the Stritzvon. Unfortunately, the shell does not end up hitting, but we're getting a lot of bounces, and that's all we need to do right now. We're holding, giving our team that advantage they want. Get a nice shell into the enemy Stritzvon, and we're going to back up before the enemy 40 TP has the ability to shoot us. So we've definitely played a bit aggressive here, but It seems to be working out quite well for us. We're going to get a shell into the enemy Tiger 131. And again, you can see the turret armor is really, really strong on this vehicle. While it may not feature the most DPM at only around 1600, you don't need too much to really work your opponents. And with the 10 degrees of gun depression you also have, it means that you shouldn't have to worry too much about any ridgelines being too much for you to work. So already, we're at 1400 damage, which is pretty good. And we're going to start aiming it on that KV-1 in the back, just because he has a bit more health, and because our teammate gets the clear as it is. So now we're going to drive up. As you'll notice, this is already a win. And it's a good example in general of how you want to drive vehicles like the M6. Not too aggressive to the point where you are going to be exposing your vehicle's hull. You'll notice how I specifically tried to hide my weak points, which is the entire hull, and only show the turret. When you pair that with the fact that we also were able to use our decent penetration to cut through our opponents, overall, this turned out to be a pretty solid game. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to deal any more damage. We're going to aim it on the side of the KV-1 here, and we do get a pen out. Nice, for 210. Dealing 1800 damage in this battle, and the Blastroid is most likely going to get the clear. Actually, he doesn't, which means we get to pick up that kill. Nice! So not only do we get a kill this game, but we also were able to support our team, play aggressive, and get some good shots out. The M6 does not feature the most accurate gun in the game, so I would recommend that you run Refined Gun on this vehicle to make it a bit more usable when you're fully aimed in. 1800 damage dealt, 1030 blocked, and that places us right up there next to the Blastroid on the team, so a pretty solid result in general. Overall, the M6, it's a very flexible tank because it has gun depression, because it has a good overall power to weight. It feels rather mobile when you're driving it. And when you pair that with the fantastic levels of pen this tank has, even though its DPM is a bit lower, because of that pen, it more than evens out. So, the M6 is a fantastic lower tier tank to mess around with. We then move on to the T29. Now, the T29 has a couple really cool things going for it. First of all, you have sandbags, which allows you to increase the hit points your vehicle features by 90. You can get even more if you run the second sandbag. However, I personally don't think it's that important, so we are just running a single sandbag. Apart from that, it's the normal food and fuel. Consumables-wise, we are simply running double repair kits and adrenaline, as that's what you should be running for the entire line. Once again, we are using Refined Gun. Just like the M6, the T29 also features a fairly inaccurate gun. It's weird because they are lower in damage per shot. 310 for a tier 7 isn't unheard of, and it's actually quite common. But unfortunately, in the T29's case, you do suffer in the accuracy department. But in terms of the penetration, once again, it's absolutely fantastic. In fact, this tier 7 can easily penetrate really any tier 8 you go up against. When you pair that with the fact this tank also has very strong upper plate armor and a turret that is nearly impossible to penetrate against tier 7s or tier 6s, and in general, this is a really, really good tank to use as a beginner. The T29 definitely has some experiences to learn. You don't want to drive it out in the open. You will get punished. But if you know how to use it properly and you hide that hull and you only show the turret, you're going to be doing more than enough damage in every game you play. We can see while the tank doesn't feature a crazy good top speed, it's still fairly mobile, going upwards of 30 kilometers per hour. So we are going to be making our way over towards base B, towards base A. We can see that 3 tanks have already been spotted over towards A and B, so that's why we're going over here. And even though we can see a tank in base C, I don't think, personally, it's that big of a deal. We are going to try and clear the mediums first. I actually didn't think their heavies were going to go there, but I guess they are. And we can see the good penetration here, cutting right through that T-42. Well, we actually ricochet penned his tank, which is a little interesting, but we still cut right through his vehicle. Alright, well, we're going to use that 10 degrees of gun depression that the T-29 does feature. We're going to angle the hull so that it's hard for the T-42 to pen us, and once again, another easy shell ripping through his armor. Just like that, we've already dealt 600 damage. We've got our adrenaline on, giving us even more damage per minute as well, and we get another shot straight into the T-42's turret. That is 900 health taken off of his vehicle, and almost no real counter from his tank. We're going to aim it on the side of the T-37, and we get a 388 max roll. As we can see, we have already been able to deal quite a bit of damage this game. We've decided the Fury, we're going to aim in a high explosive shell, and we deal, a bad roll, only 310. That's a rather lackluster shot. But again, we're doing more than enough here as it is. We're going to reload. We got 2 seconds left, and we're going to load in another high explosive. There you go. A much better shot, dealing over 400 damage this time. The VK-30 is going to be clearing the enemy tank, and we can see the rest of the vehicles are in the spawn. So for now, we're going to sit, and we're going to hide our weak armor. Once again, you can see in this position we are at, we are only really showing our turret because of the way this this kind of, dirt formulates around our vehicle, which is obviously very, very good, and it gives us the ability to not have to worry about losing any health. But at this point, we already see that this game is going to be a win. We've supported our team, we've gotten out good bleeds, and all that's left are 2 ARLs who are in platoon, but are not very scary. Because we have so much health, even if this ARL does manage to get good shells out, I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem. We're going to aim in on the side of his vehicle and get a nice 330 shot. We are now going to reload once again and see if we can deal any more damage. Now, our team isn't doing great, and we can see that firsthand here. They are falling apart quite quickly. I would love to be able to get a shell into that ARL. However, that is not a possibility as of now. We are just going to make our way towards the rest of our team. This KV clearly is a little bit lost. So really it's just the VK, and our VK also is really not looking too upgraded here with his no camo. So we're going to make it over towards this side, and we're going to get hauled down and make this game a very, very painful experience for the ARL. Again, with the 10 degrees of gun depression, this vehicle is very flexible on any bridge line you play it on, which is quite enjoyable, and it makes this tank really, really nice to play. And look at that penetration, easily ignoring enemy armor like it doesn't even exist. So we are at 3,500 damage already in this game. We're going to aim it on the ARL once again. He shoots at my teammate, so we get a nice 388 shot into his tank, and just like that, we only have 2 seconds left on our reload. Our teammate gets the clear, and now we push up to the ARL in the back. We're going to shoot on the move. We actually managed to hit that. I did load a premium shell for that as well. We also broke the ARL's gun, so really a series of unfortunate events for this player in the back. We're just going to fire a standard shell into his side armor. Just like that, we get a win. So this is the T-29's capabilities, and it's why it's such a strong vehicle. The gun is solid, as we saw, and as long as you let it aim in with refined gun, it's more than enough accurate. When you pair that with the fact that the vehicle is quite mobile and heavily armored, especially in the turret, yeah, it's really strong. And we can see I did 4 times the next highest damage on the team. Now, obviously, as a beginner, you shouldn't expect to do that, quite common, but it is still a fantastic vehicle. Again, look at these pen values, 260 on the premium and 214 on the standard. That is almost unheard of in Tier 7, and it allows this tank to really ignore the majority of armor that you're fighting even against higher tiered opponents. The T-32 also has very good penetration. Its standard has 235 mils, and the premium is upwards of 280, making this vehicle cut through Tier 9s, Tier 8s, or Tier 7s quite efficiently. When you pair that with the fact that this tank also has very, very strong armor and decent mobility, just like the T-29 in general, you're going to be having a good experience. The problem with the T-32 is the same problem with the T-29. Its gun is very bad on accuracy. You see, the T-32 does get upgrades in DPM, and it gets upgrades in penetration versus the T-29. Unfortunately, accuracy-wise, both tanks are basically the same, which is very, very bad. If you're running refined gun, though, it does make it manageable. You can sit still, and you can aim in, and you can get some pretty solid shots. And I can fully accept the poor accuracy on this vehicle because of the fact the vehicle has an incredible armor profile. Its upper plate is upwards of 220 millimeters thick. Not only that, but the turret on this vehicle is nearly impossible to cut through. Like, you literally can't cut through the turret on this vehicle. It's around 330 thick, which is insane. It means that even Tier 9s are not much of a problem for this tank. Now, unfortunately, we have a stock Death Star, which normally is a very dangerous tank, but guys, if you get your Season Pass tanks, please don't drive them unless they are fully upgraded, because, yeah, you're just looking like a doofus if you drive them stock. We are going to make our way, well, we can see we got a lot of vehicles going towards the medium flank, and that's because we are the only heavy. That's just the classic matchmaking, not giving a heavy tank any heavies to actually fight. Now, that's not too big of a deal, because the T-32 is at least a decently mobile tank, as I mentioned before, so we can accelerate up to at least our top speed of 30 and support the rest of our teammates. We can see the P-44 Pantera shooting at my T-44, and we're going to get a shell in ourselves for 307 damage. Alright, T-44, move out of my way, good sir. Oh, we got the Centurion as well. Get a nice bounce. Let's just chill right here for now. And let's see if that Centurion pokes again. He is going to get bled. 293, and again, another bounce. We can see that the hull armor on this vehicle is pretty decent, and that's what I was talking about before. You will get pretty good bounces when it comes to this vehicle against enemy tanks. And with the penetration being pretty good, you're going to cut through them as well. Unfortunately, the enemy team has a RHM, which I couldn't have really predicted or countered, so that's just unfortunate. But we've already dealt a solid amount of damage at 1200, and with that, we're doing pretty good stuff here. If that Centurion does end up poking, or the enemy Borsig does, this time we will know, and we will be ready to shoot back. So we're just going to wait. We can see the Waffenträger has been shot as well quite a bit, so that's not too much of an issue at all. We're just going to keep waiting. Oh, there you go. The enemy Waffle does poke. And, well, he HEs us, but that doesn't really do anything. We win the trade there, so it's not too much of a big deal. Is the Pantera still sitting there? No, he is not. What that means is we can start slowly moving on up. The Barask is being pushed off by the rest of our team. So at this point, we're going to aim it on that Centurion. He actually ends up dying, which is great for us. We are going to push the Borsig. So, yeah, this should be some pretty free damage. Let's see what we can do here. The RHM is going to look at us, but I'm not too worried. We get a nice 400 damage high explosive out. We ram him, and again, this is where the armor on this vehicle is really nice. You can see he has to load gold to pen us, and then we end up killing him anyway because we push him into the line of fire for the rest of our teammates. So we got the Barask all the way in the open. We're going to aim at a high explosive, and oh, that's really sad. I was hoping that would pen. It was still a decent shot, and that's not too bad at all. The Barask is going to try and run, which not sure how well that's going to work out for him, but hey, we did a solid result. It's a good example of how the T-32's armor works. Like, if you expose it, you're going to get penned, especially with high pen vehicles. Obviously, the RHM with heat has upwards of 380 mils of pen, but we did a fine job. We held, and we got bleeds out, which put us top on the team, and really with little effort as well. Overall, the T-32 is a fantastic Tier 8 heavy. It's got great armor, especially when you use it with gun depression. It's basically the same playstyle as the T-29, just bumped up a tier. And judging that the vehicle has great penetration, you're not going to have to load much gold, saving you very precious credits. And pair that with the fact that this tank has a huge amount of hit points and great capabilities in general. It's actually a fantastic tank. A lot of people don't realize this, but the T-32 actually has really good DPM at 2,100. That places it at one of the higher values for heavy tanks. So yeah, I actually like the tank overall. It's a great vehicle. It might not be the most exciting to play, but it definitely is going to be a good one for getting the job done. The M103 is really when we step up in terms of the gun. The armor I actually think goes down a little bit. The armor on the M103 is definitely a bit worse than the T-32 and the T-29. But I think the gun makes up for it. First of all, much better accuracy. From .32 to .288, that is a huge change. Not only that, but look at the pen. The standard pen on the M103 is 280. So your pen on the M103 on the standard is better than the premium pen on the T-32. Not only that, but your heat has 384 mils. That is insane. That's more penetration than the majority of Tier 10s get, let alone Tier 9s. And that's just insane. When you pair all of that with the fact that this vehicle, once again, is decently mobile, having a power to weight of 17.5. For some reason, all these tanks are fast, but they only go about 34. It's always funny to me, especially the reverse speed. You have to be very careful when backing up. Only 12 reverse means that, yeah, you definitely can get caught out in the open and bled quite a lot. But in general, this tank is fast, it's got really good damage per minute, and incredible levels of penetration. I should also mention that this vehicle features pretty good armor and hit points. Once again, just like the Tier 8, it has sandbags, so you can increase your health a lot in this vehicle, making it harder to deal with. Gun depression wise, you do lose 2 degrees, going from 10 to 8, but that's still more than enough to work really any position you'll be in, and should allow this vehicle to be quite flexible. So obviously, let's see what the M103 can do. A pretty solid matchup with Tier 9s and Tier 8s up against us, but unfortunately, we have a stock Centurion 1, so that means one of our Tier 9s is essentially a Tier 8 with a little bit more health. Alright, well, we are going to focus on making our way to Base B, unless our team doesn't allow us to. It's very team dependent when it comes to a team-based game, so you always want to stick with your team. Now, we have a stock Ferdinand as well. That's not good. We got a lot of vehicles to work with here. Now we can see that the acceleration, as I said, on the M103 is quite nice. This vehicle gets up to 34 very quickly, just unfortunately you're not getting past 34. I really wish this vehicle would go 40 because it would have been a little bit nicer, but it's not that big of a deal. We are going to head right to this middle ramp here, and hopefully we're going to find some enemy tanks. Well, we have the enemy KPZ, and that shell was actually close to hitting, but no cigar. Well, that's alright. We reload in just a couple seconds, and we might be able to get a little bit more out. Now, the Kampfpanzer turret really doesn't stand much of a chance against the level of heat pen this vehicle features, which is actually quite good. You can see that pen right there, but that was unlucky. It went right into the weak spot, and yet still did not penetrate. Well, it's not that big of a deal. We still distracted and allowed our teammates to get a shell out. Well, for now, we're going to push this enemy T-28 Defender. Oh, it's not just a T-28 Defender. It's actually quite a bit of vehicles. Well, it's still not that big of a problem because we are in a hull-down position where we can use the good alpha damage and great DPM this vehicle has to counter the enemy tanks. It looks like the enemy T-54E1 is also stock, making him not too big of a threat. We get another shell into the T-54, and just like that, he is already a one-shot. We are going to keep using this increased DPM we have with our adrenaline over and over as long as we can. There you go. Another nice shot. We're already up to 1,200 damage dealt. Alright, well, we're going to back up, making it as hard as possible for this T-28 Defender to pen us. He shoots us, bounces the shot, and we get a nice 500 juicer right back into his tank. Well, we're going to reload again. Kampfpanzer does get the clear, and we are going to... Honestly, I'm going to ignore the T-28 Defender because he's about to be on reload, and I was about to say we're going to ram him and kill him, but I guess that works out just as well. The Jagdpanther is going to shoot him, and unfortunately, our Kampfpanzer does not get the clear, but thankfully we are here to pick it up. So, just like that, we've been able to use our solid DPM and deal with opponents really with no issues whatsoever. We are already up to 2,200 damage dealt in this game. Now we're going to use that solid power to weight this vehicle has to accelerate up this hill and get some more shells out. We get a nice shot into the T-30. T-30 is definitely one of the biggest threats on the enemy team with the level of damage it does, so I'm definitely going to be focusing that player. We're going to get a shell into the enemy E-75, and look at that, a nice 500 shot. Now we're going to allow this Kampfpanzer to shoot, which is going to allow us to hopefully get a shell out into his tank. Well, let's see. We actually can't hit him at that angle, but that's alright. Oh, well, maybe it's not actually. I've just realized our team is falling apart quite quickly, which is not actually good. In fact, this is quite bad. Alright, well, we're going to get a shell into the Kampfpanzer, and what I'm hoping right now is that, yes, we will take a shot, but what I'm hoping is that we can get behind the KPZ. We can get a nice little bleed out. Maybe a high roll. Oh, he hits us as well. That absolutely sucks. Well, our tank, which was quite healthy, lost a lot of its effective capabilities. But the good news is that we are still quite flexible, and we get the shell out. However, our Kampfpanzer ends up dying. This was actually really bad. I thought we were winning this, but it turns out that our team kind of sucked and died all around me, which really put a stunt on our capabilities this game. We got a nice shell into the E-75, and the only way we live this is if we use the E-75 as bait, but unfortunately, the T-30 is able to clear us. The M103 did a fine job this game. We did over 4,000 damage, we held, and we showcased why the gun is great. Unfortunately, we were stuck in an awful situation there, where either way we were going to get shot by the enemy team. And I didn't realize, but everybody around me just YOLO'd in and died. So ideally, I should have just stayed hull down, and we probably could have been able to win that. I made an over-aggression. I expected more from my team, and I guess that's on me. But we did almost 5,000 damage. So even with a defeat, we still did a great job to showcase why the M103 gun is fantastic. We bled the enemy team out like crazy. The damage per minute this vehicle has is fantastic. And we didn't even need to load a single gold shell apart from that Kampfpanzer. Too bad that shot didn't pen early game, though, because if it did, we actually probably would have been able to pick up this win. So, overall, the M103, it's a great tank. Its armor is not as good as the T-32 and T-29. However, it didn't really matter in that game as the opponents had our sides exposed. I was really hoping that one of those vehicles was going to miss me as I was driving down, but unfortunately every single one of them hit me, which did not help me out all too much. But at the end of the day, we did pretty good, so I can't get too mad. The E5 is basically just a better version of the M103. In terms of the gun, it's even more accurate, .257 dispersion. In terms of aiming time, it's very quick, and penetration, once again, is basically the same. And you might think, oh, well, it didn't go up that much. It doesn't need to. The pen on the M103 is already incredible, so it just gets better with the T110E5. Armor-wise, the vehicle is quite good. It's got a lot of turret armor. It's got incredible levels of hull armor. In general, you don't need to worry about being penned in this vehicle as long as you're hiding your lower plate. And when it comes to the damage per minute, just like the M103, this is a very, very good gun, with 2,700 base, allowing you to bleed out your opponents with little to no effort. The only problem I have with the E5 is the same problem I have with the M103, and that is its reverse speed. It only reverses at 12 kilometers per hour, which is good and bad. The good is that it teaches you to not overexpose YOLO into the open and die. But it also can hurt you when there's autoloaders shooting at you and you're trying to back into cover and they keep tracking you. So definitely things to keep in mind. Now I'm going to ping to the team that I'm going to be heading over towards base A. I don't know if the team is going to do that, but it looks like after the second ping, the VK was able to listen. We can see here that unlike the M103, the T110E5 actually accelerates to quite a better top speed of 42 kilometers per hour. And it's got a very good power to weight, so it chills at 42 as well. This tank is very fast for a heavy, which is really, really nice. So we are going to be getting hopefully quite aggressive here. The enemy team does have some dangerous heavies, but at the same time, we have a lot of support from our team here, and I really, really, really want to move up and get into this position so that we can get out some good bleeds. Let's see if the enemy Sheridan's over here. Well, he is. He gets a shot at one of my teammates, but obviously is not able to do much to stop us. We're going to aim it on the enemy Sheridan. We get a nice bleed out. We're just going to hold. And we've already pushed the enemy Sheridan off, which is great. So, yeah, the enemy team is already in rather a tricky situation. We're going to get a shell into the Sheridan. That tank misses me. We're going to put on our adrenaline and use that solid DPM we feature to hopefully get out even more damage. Let's find out. Sheridan is going to try and run away. We get a nice 429, and the Foch ends up missing me with his first shell. Alright, well, we're going to reload again. We got the enemy Sheridan running once again. There you go. We can see that incredible accuracy as well, coming from this vehicle. Able to hit the enemy with really very, very little effort. The VK shoots the Foch. We shoot the Foch. Just like that, we've already dealt 2,000 damage. Hopefully, our WZ gets the clear. He does. Just like that, already a very solid start, clearing almost 3 enemy tanks. Now, we did lose one of our own, being the TVP, but that's just classic TVP gameplay. You always expect your TVP player to just YOLO and kill themselves for virtually no reason. Now, we have the VK72, who is rushing our teammate. We also have the E5, which we get a nice little snap into before our WZ managed to block us. So already we've done some pretty good numbers here. We have the E5, who looks like he might cross this gap, and I'm kind of hoping he does, because that'll be a bit of free damage. We also have the E100, who we're going to aim it on his lower plate up, but manages to slam that shell into my side. Not too surprising, because the E100 does obviously feature a very, very dangerous gun, but at the same time, we're doing more than plenty of damage here. Nice 300 damage shell into the enemy VK72, and just like that, we are already up to 3,000 damage. Shows you just how quick you can get out damage in a vehicle like this. We have the E5 showing me the side of his turret, and just like that, we get a 407 roll out. Ooh, but we get hit by the VK72, which I didn't even know could see us, which is a little disappointing. But the good news is we get another shell into the E5, which obviously bleeds out the enemy even more. Now, base capture is a serious problem at this point, and it could cause us to lose this game. We're going to aim in a shell onto the enemy 100, and it looks like our WZ is going to move up because of the base. So I'm going to try and support here. We might actually lose this game, but at the end of the day, it's nothing that we could have done anything against. I'm going to try and get behind this E5 and get a clear out if we can. Let's get one shell. Actually, we get a nice match roll, and with that, if we can actually support with this VK72, we could still win this game. So let's get one shell out. Our VK gets the shell as well, which is obviously quite nice. And I'm going to see if I can, well, we're not able to get the Sheridan, but we are able to get another shell into the VK. I'm really hoping that our WZ, beautiful WZ, gets the clear on that enemy tank, which allows us to aim in a heat shell, penetrating the enemy VK72 once again. At this point, we are looking to win this game. That VK misses the shell on the WZ, and we get a win. So this was quite a close battle, as we saw, very close. But we played it smart. We didn't bleed that much health until later in the battle, and even then we had plenty of health to deal with the situation we had. We did 5,600 damage, we got a first class, and we obviously did quite good in this battle, finishing top on the team. as we can see, the T110E5 is a fantastic vehicle. I don't think we missed a single shot this game, and it shows why the gun is so incredible. When you pair that with the fantastic armor hull down, with the great mobility and fantastic damage per minute, we can see 2,643, there's really nothing bad I can say about this vehicle. The whole line is quite good, quite easy to grind, and while you will have a bit of a painful experience with a stock M103, once you get the second gun, it is actually quite good. And we can see that here, taking a look at the vehicle. Just the second gun you unlock still has the same heat pattern. The only real disadvantage is that it has a little bit worse dispersion and aiming time, but everything else is quite good. So, in general, I think that the E5 is one of the best vehicles to grind in the game. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. And as always, if you'd like to see more like this, consider smashing that subscribe button down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.